Welcome to this demonstration of the PTI risk assessment tool. This is the home page when signed in. Company super users can see this administration tab here, and in this administration tab they are able to see all the users that are registered for their company. They are also able to add additional users, and they can provide them with the role of a super user, the same as themselves, as an assessor. They can complete assessments, or a viewer. They can only view the assessments in the tool. They can't make any changes to them. Also on the administration tab is a list of all the company stations. I'm logged in as a Chiltern Railways user, and so we've got all Chiltern Railways stations in the system, and for each station the super user can also upload additional files for that station. So for example, if they wanted to attach the local instruction for the station, they could add it here. If they wanted to add photographs relevant to the station, they could add them here as well. The next tab is the assessment tab. The assessment tab shows all the assessments for their stations, who the assessor was, the date the assessment was started, the status of the assessment, the risk control score as it currently stands for that assessment. They're able to view the assessment and copy the assessment. For this demonstration, I'm going to use Bicester North. We've already made a start on Bicester North, but I'm going to copy it so that we can start from the beginning and you can see how the assessment is built up. So by copying the assessment, we get a warning to say that this already exists. The existing one becomes archive, and the new assessment is shown as initiated assessments. So I've agreed to do that, and we get a message to say it's done successfully. So now you'll see we've got an archived assessment for Bicester North, which we can't change, and the existing assessment has changed its status to initiated. So I'm going to go into this initiated assessment. So the first page you see is called the station profile. So we've got the name of the station. Any documents that we've uploaded, we'd be able to see them through this tab here. The relevant NRES page, the station, is shown here. Any previous assessments would show the completed assessments, that is, the date would be shown here. The address of the station footfall as it currently is, and you can see here it says 1.7 million passengers per year. If you want to look back and see what it was over previous years, we can use this selector here. We've selected 5 years, and you can see that 5 years ago the footfall was 1.13 million passengers per year. So it's gone up 50% in the last 5 years. And we can also look at relevant PTI incidents that are recorded into SMIS. Again, we've selected 5 years here. You can select any number of years you want to go back here. So in the last 5 years, there have been 31 incidents, and using this button, we can show the details of those incidents. If we take the most recent year, 2015-16, 4 boarding and alighting incidents, and we can break down and see the further details of those, including the SMIS reference if you wanted to go into SMIS and pick out further details of those incidents. So that's just to start the introduction to the assessment. Then we need to start building our assessment. So we add in the platforms we want to assess. So at Bicester Station, there are 2 platforms. For those platforms, we add in approximate usage figures. So we see that platform 2 has slightly more passengers than platform 1. And we also add in the type of dispatch arrangement used at that platform. You could give a platform any name you want to give it, and in fact you could assess the same platform twice if you wanted, for example for crowded conditions and normal conditions. So there's unlimited choices. You could also list a platform as 1A and 1B if you've got 1A and 1B, or you can assess the platform altogether. So there's flexibility there in choosing the platforms that you want to assess. Next, you need to assess what trains you want to evaluate at the station. At this, at Chilterns, we've registered intercity train, and also, which is the loco hauled coaching stock, and also DMU. Under the add trains function, there's two different areas you can add trains. You can either look at it at a general level, or you can go in and add the specific train types that you want to add in. And also we've got the facility to add additional trains in, so if you wanted to break train class down even further, for example class 222, we've broken into different coach lengths here, we can do that for you. Just get in touch with us. Once we've selected our trains, we then have to assign them to the platforms. So you might decide to assign all trains to all platforms if you want to, or you can be more specific. For example, if you've got a large station with a bay platform, it may only be the smaller trains that go into the bay platforms. Finally, we've got some more details about the risk assessment process. The first option at the top is called the assessment type. The default we've set it to is the detailed assessment. There's an option to conduct what we call a basic assessment. The basic assessment reduces the number of questions that you have to answer, so that we filtered out what we consider to be the lesser important or lower weighted questions. Wherever you see a blue I button, it gives you a bit more detail to help you understand the process. So just click on the I button and it will provide you with a help facility in that area. That goes for the case all the way through the assessment. Then there's some basic questions that are free text answers for you to fill in. This information is then automatically populating the final report that's produced. The questions relate to changes at the station since the last assessment, any staff concerns regarding the station, any customer complaints relevant to PTI at the station, and the passenger types that use the station. Then finally, we've got the facility to add staff in that are involved in the assessment, and you can add in as many types of staff as you want to. And in particular, we'd encourage you to take a collaborative approach to completing the assessment, so that you employ interfacing organisations and get them involved, staff reps of course, and people involved in actually working on the station. It's most important that they're involved, because some of the questions relate to situations that may arise that you might not see on the day that you happen to be at the station. So it's important that staff working on the station are involved. Once we're satisfied with all that information, we then compress the generate assessment overview. Now up to this point, the actual scale of the assessment isn't determined. It's based upon all the questions that you've put in to the this first part of the assessment. For example, the rolling stock, the platforms, the assessment is built around those that you've already entered into the tool. Okay, once we're happy with the station profile, we can then generate the assessment overview. This provides a warning because you can't then go back and add additional platforms and rolling stock. The assessment overview tab then shows you the different areas that you need to complete as part of the assessment. It's broken up into 4 areas. There's an overall station assessments section, And then for each platform there are three areas: platform assessment, which covers the hardware, design, facilities on the platform; passenger assessment, which relates to management of passengers on the platform; and rolling stock assessment, which is broken down into the different types of rolling stock that you'd previously entered. So if we go to the station assessment questions to start off with, each area starts off with some optional filter questions, so that you can ask questions about whether staff are present, whether electric vehicles are used on a platform, whether the station is secured at night or not. These then filter out irrelevant questions in the assessment. Each assessment question follows a similar format. There's a code, the area being assessed, the assessment criteria, a score which is provided, the drop down, everything's scored from 0 to 5. Then there's for each question there's guidance on the scoring and where further information can be provided, and the option of adding additional notes. So these are the overall general station questions. Once we're happy with those, we can either go back to the station overview, or we can move on and click next and go to the next area, which would be the platform assessment for platform 1. As before, we've got some filter questions relating to whether the platform signalled for bidirectional working or not, or whether there's DOO equipment on the platform that you want to assess, or whether there's a starting signal on the platform you want to assess or not. And you'll see that the questions follow the same format as previously. Where you've got bidirectional working or starting signals, you'll get asked the same question twice for the up and down direction. You can go back again to station assessment overview, or click on next to go to the next part of the assessment, which is the passenger assessment for platform 1. And again, we've got some filter questions, again about whether staff are deployed on the platform or not, and whether you want to assess arrangements for overcrowding at the platform or not. And the questions follow a similar process. You might notice there's some numbers missing here, and that's because we filtered out the fact that staff aren't deployed on the platform, so those questions are taken out of this this assessment. And finally, we've got our rolling stock types, so we can click on these to generate our rolling stock types. There's filter questions again, in this case only about selective door operation being relevant or not for this train at this platform, and again a section of questions for rolling stock. There is a couple of additional facilities to look at on here. First of all, there's a copy facility, so that you can copy one completed assessment. So we're on platform 1 DMU at the moment. If we wanted to copy all our assessment scores for the other 3 remaining assessments for rolling stock, we can do that here, and that saves some time because a lot of the questions will have similar responses. And there's also the opportunity throughout the assessment to make recommendations. There's a recommendation button here. As you can see, we've already made 2 recommendations. These can be edited if we want to, so we could change it from outstanding to complete, for example, or reject where we wanted to, or we can add a new recommendation by clicking the new recommendation button. It'll always start by the area of assessment that you're on, rolling stock, but you can change that. You can put in your own miscellaneous section, or it could be station wide, or to go back to where you were. Subsection is DMU is where we are on, but you can change that and write in whatever you like into that section. So I might put, for example, ticket office, and then you write in your recommendation here, and then you can select a priority level, low, medium or high, what the status of that recommendation is, and then a target date for completion builds up the calendar for you, and you can select a date at some point in the future if you wanted to. It won't let you complete it, as you can see there, without me selecting a section, so I'm going to select miscellaneous for this one. The assessment overview shows you how far you are throughout all the assessment sheets. So as we were starting with an existing assessment, you can see that it is already 100% complete. The final tab is the results tab, and this shows you your scores, your risk control scores for each part of the assessment, and also the relative platform scores for the platform assessments, and also you can, perhaps most valuably, generate a PTI assessment report. And this shows you who was involved in the assessment, the recommendations that you've made, the basic station information, the risk control scores you've got for each station, the platform scores, where you would get most improvement through your risk control, so where there's the biggest opportunity is to improve risk control scores, if you like, on the platform, and then the data that you added in to complete the assessment. You can then export these reports as PDFs or Word documents, and you can then, if you export it as a Word document, you can then go on and edit it to make it as bespoke as you like to your company's requirements. If we go back home, final thing I wanted to show you was in the reports section. This shows you the completed reports, and it gives you the scores for each of the assessment areas, which you can then filter. So you can filter according to footfall, or which are your highest or lowest scoring stations, or completion date, which ones were the oldest assessments, and also you can click on the report for those assessments, and also it provides you with a company recommendation report, so all the recommendations you've made for the different stations are also shown in here, and you can filter those as well. So I think that completes the main functions of the PTI risk assessment tool, and if you have any further questions, then do please get in touch. Thank you. Welcome to this short demonstration of the PTI risk assessment tool mobile application. The application can be downloaded from the Google Play Store for Android or the App Store for iPad. You'll first need to log into the tool, and you'll need to be connected to the internet to log in. Use the same email address and password as you've been provided for the web-based tool. When you log in for the first time, you'll be shown a blank screen. This is because you haven't synchronized any data to the tool yet. There's a sync button at the top right hand side of the screen. This brings through in progress assessments that you've already started in the web-based application. It doesn't bring through completed assessments, archived assessments or initiated assessments. This is to reduce the amount of data transfer that's required. You can also start an assessment from scratch if you wanted to, using the Create Assessment at the top of the screen. Here you've got a list of all the stations for which you are the station facility operator. And you'll scroll down, select the station that you want to do the assessment for. Thinking the device has brought through 2 assessments, Bicester North and Solihull. I'm going to continue by showing you Bicester North. We started this in the web-based application. Once you've selected on Bicester North, it takes you through to the station profile. This is in a slightly different format to that in the web-based tool. Navigation through the station profile happens either on the left-hand side by navigating through the stations, the sections, or on the right-hand side there's a next and previous button that you can use as well. All the information in the station sections is identical to that in the web-based tool, including information on SMIS details at the bottom of the screen there. If we click on that, it brings through our SMIS information, and also the footfall data is there as well. Because we've already generated our risk assessment overview, we're unable to change certain fields within the station profile as they've been added to create the assessment sheets that we need. After the station profile, we can look at the assessment overview. The assessment overview is where we get access and navigate through all our assessment questions. Navigation again happens from left to right. So on the left hand side of the screen you can see station, platform 1, platform 2. We can also change that navigation to consider it by assessment type as well. So we go from platform 1, platform 2, etc. I prefer to work platform by platform. So if we look at station button and the station assessment questions, again you'll see the format is slightly different to that in the web-based tool. We start off with the filter questions, and we change these by touching on the relevant question on the top right if we want to change a filter question, and then we can either press next on the right or just tap the questions to get to the actual question page. The questions are identical as to what you'll find in the web-based tool. The scores happen using a drop-down menu. Guidance is provided by touching the relevant guidance button next to the score, and then on the right of that we've got a notes recommendations area. You'll see some buttons have edit in, some have add in. If the button shows add, it means no information's been put into that notes page so far. If it's shown as edit, it means there's information in there already. So I'm going to touch edit for the top question. And you'll see that there's a notes section where it says test message at the moment. So we can just click on there and bring up the keyboard and we can edit that if we want to. There's also a microphone function on the keyboard that some people find useful for dictating to the device. That's quite useful when you're on a station in particular. There's also the ability to add recommendations at this point which might support the notes that you've added. Once we've answered all the questions for one section, we can either click next to go to the next stage, or we can go back to station overview at the top of the screen, and that will then show us the overall navigation part of the assessment. Across the bottom we've got an indication of the progress that we're made through each part of the assessment and what our overall risk assessment score is. And across the right we've got additional buttons for synchronization, a button for progress overview which tells you parts of the assessment where you've still got questions to answer, and you've also got the recommendations button again to add recommendations. Let's just go and have a look at platform 1 passenger assessment. Again, we've got the filter questions come up first, and then we can go on and look at the questions that we've got. And whilst we're on this page, I just wanted to show you the copy function. So at the bottom left, you'll see there's a button called copy, which I'm going to touch now. And that brings the ability to take that assessment and copy it to the next platform. So at the moment we're on platform 1, so we're going to copy from platform 1, and if we wanted to, we can copy that information or paste it into platform 2. You be very cautious about doing that because it will overwrite any information you've already added into platform 2. So you don't want to do that copying when you've already completed all your assessment questions like we have for Bicester North. So once you're happy with all your assessment questions, all your notes, all your recommendations, you then want to sync the data back to your web-based tool by pressing the sync button. The actual mobile application doesn't have the same level of functionality as the web-based tool. In the web-based tool, you can then go in and look at more detail at all the results. You can print a risk assessment report off, and you can also do some comparisons between stations as well. So that completes a quick run through of the mobile application. I hope you found that useful, and you'll see that it's quite an easy system to use. Thank you very much.